Hello and welcome back to another on the recipe and another edition of AEW Collision Out of 10. And Wednesday's special episode of Dynamite from Arena Mexico is a big success for the company, is building into All In next month. And yeah, there's also a lot of this stuff on this week's Collision as well, with Tony Storm speaking, Swerve Strickland taking on Shane Taylor. But we started things off with a World Champion action. But before that, Collision opened with Stokely Hathaway giving a very brief promo before Mox made his way through the crowd so he could take on Fox. Fox is a great talent who can have a good match with just about anyone, but this is the one of the few times where it felt like Moxley was fighting well below his weight class. At no point did it feel like Fox had a chance to win, and Utah interfered by tripping Fox on the top turnbuckle, but Mox never needed any help. This bout was designed to make the champion look brutal and dominant competitor, and it worked for the most part. Mox hit a pile driver and several forearm strikes to the head before locking in a rear naked choke for the win. The world champ gave a promo directed at Hangman Page to chop things off, but yeah, basically as simple it gets, 6 out of 10. A big 8-man tag then took place with Cole Garcia, Bandido and Strong taking on Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, Takeshita and Fletcher. Harwood started against Bandido in a fast-paced and hard-hitting exchange. Harwood hit several stiff shots, but it wasn't enough to slow down the ROH champ. They had a few different rivalries rolled up into one match. It felt like more than just a random assortment of opponents. They were 8 talented competitors and everyone pulled their weight, but Bandido definitely stood out on the babyface side for his high-flying offense. The bout had several exciting sequences that had the crowd on the edge of their seats. In the end, it was a shutter machine from FTR to Strong who sealed the win when the heels continued to attack. The Outrunners made the save. So yeah, setting up an intriguing little feud there, but a really fun match, 7 out of 10. And the third match saw Swerve take on Shane Taylor, and Prince Nana was of course in Swerve's corner while Taylor had his stable with him. The first minute was the kind of counters that ended with Taylor being sent out of the ring. Taylor used his power advantage to unload on Strickland with strikes, but the former world champion managed to neutralise his size several times. Taylor put up a good fight, but Swerve hit his finisher to get the pin and the win. This is an entertaining and predictable bout, but you know, it was alright nonetheless, and I'll give it a 6 out of 10. And then moving on into Willow Nightingale, Hologram and Mark Briscoe against Taya Valkyrie and the MSM Collections. Tony Storm then gave a great fantasy-filled promo before that about her upcoming match with Mercedes Moné. That took place before we got that 6-person tag. Nightingale and Valkyrie started the match with their teams, but they didn't stay in for too long before taking out to Hologram Madden. The heel team had control throughout the break until Briscoe got the hot tag and went on a rampage, but Johnny TV's interference slowed it all down. Valkyrie gave us some intergender action when she hit Hologram with Hurricane Rana and went over to the same with a spear to Mansoor. A fun sprint ended with a conglomeration picking up the win. Yeah, it's not a classic or anything, but you know, it's a relatively decent fun match. Obviously, kind of the way we all expected it to go. So yeah, 6 out of 10. Don Callis then gave a promo introducing Okada as the official member of the Don Callis family. Briscoe came out and brought Ibushi with him to show that Omega still have friends. A fight broke out that ended with Ibushi and Okada trading shots. We returned from a break to see the Works Horsemen brawling with Big Bill and Brian Keith. This is not just a match that was set for tonight, this is just a random fight. The Patriarchy came out and said this is supposed to be the airtime for the announcement. Christian said he and Nick Wayne was going after tag titles, and we also got a backstage segment with Anthony Bowens and Billy Gunn talking about how Bowens needs to keep winning to climb the ladder in AEW. Probably true that. Before we got the Gates of Agony against Jet Speed, and Khan and Leona took on Bailey and Knight in a tag match with Ricochet and commentary. Knight and Speedball are both talented performers, but Leona and Khan were simply too powerful for them during the early portion of the match. Ricochet looked to both impressed and intimidated as the Gates of Agony inflicted a lot of damage onto the high flyers. We returned from a break to see Knight hit a flying clothesline before making a hot tag to Bailey. Even though it lasted through the break, this wasn't very long because they needed to finish in time for the main event. They managed to pack a lot into the minutes they were given to make this enjoyable, and Bailey took out Leona at ringside, so Knight was free to hit his finisher on Khan to score the win for his team. So yeah, gets a 6 out of 10 for me, a pretty solid match. And before we got Rossa Amanata, Jay and Mello taking on Ford, Bane, Thekla and Athena in a main event, an all-star women's tag match, and yeah, everyone started fighting as soon as possible, and it began with Alanata and Ford as the two teams who officially started as legal competitors. Unfortunately, the match didn't feel like it had enough time to properly highlight all 8 competitors. It started to get close to the end of the show, so they started to try their best to pack in as much as possible. If they had given as much time as the 8-man tag and it would have been just as good as it was. It felt a bit rushed, but Red Velvet ended up getting Athena win by sliding her title in for the use of the weapon, keeps Athena's win streak going, and just 6 out of 10 from me. Overall, AEW Collision gets a 6 out of 10 from me. I thought, it's a pretty decent episode of Collision. Maybe some of the timing could have done with the work, like I say. The women's match could have been maybe given more time. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. It's a decent show, but, you know, maybe it could have been better.
That's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Follow us on our socials, link in the description below for daily wrestling news, meme and content. Subscribe to our other channels on screen right now. That'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace out.